The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Wow, that was big. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to The Winemakers. I am John Myers.
John, you don't know anyone's name who's on here. So how are you going to do the introduction?
You are, because I'm just saying hi to everybody. I'm sitting here with Brian Casey, the sommelier.
All right,
and
so
new friends, which is awesome. So have at it.
Bart Hansen is currently doing a tasting at the Tank in Glen Ellen, and Sam,
somebody's getting tanked.
Someone's getting tanked, right. And Sam just, I think, landed in Georgia. So
rainy nights in Georgia.
Thanks, John. We have so Marvella Castaneda is on. Do have people ever call you Marvella? Is that like traditional?
Yes. Yeah. I get Marvella.
Yeah.
I get Marv. Marv is the most common way to say my name.
Okay.
I get Marvella. Marvella is how I grew up.
Yeah. That's what Kelly calls you, so that's why I'm calling you that. Okay.
I get Bea sometimes.
Kelly Corbett.
Kelly Cornett from our friend who has a Cork in the Road podcast in Georgia. So Sam Couturi is in Georgia, and I think he's going on her podcast tomorrow. Marvella was here doing this sort of project, and so I was been following her on Instagram and saw what she was doing. Asked her if she wanted to come taste here, and then sort of under the guise of like getting her to talk about what she's been doing this week. And so she graciously accepted the invitation and is going to kind of tell us she's been here in this, like, I'm going to call it an immersion program. But when I saw video or pictures of her with Ted Lemon in a vineyard, I was like, oh shit. A little bit of jealousy, because I'm like, I live here and I don't even get to do this kind of shit. Like, how is it that you got to do this stuff? You're in Georgia. Like, how come you're in my backyard hanging out with these people? The only American that's made wine in Burgundy, and she's sitting there just like chatting it up. So she went to lunch at Valley, and then she shows up and she's got Scott Kirkpatrick, who those of you that are listeners of the show know we have had Scott on before. You know, if you know Mountain Tide's brand, we can have Scott talk about that whole situation. But we wanted to get Marvella on and ask. Supposedly, this is her first time to Northern California, so kind of get her take on what's been going on, and you know, more importantly, like what the hell was she doing here this week?
I like it.
How did she get this opportunity? So Marvella, welcome to the show. Welcome to Sonoma.
Thank you.
Welcome to 16600.
Everything's been so beautiful. I'm so grateful. I feel so lucky. I was invited by West Sonoma Coast Vineyards,
which is so, and I don't know that group. It's like
so we know vintners and growers.
Basically, people that are growing Pinot and Chard out in West County in
West Sonoma Coast. It's an AVA that got established in 2022, so it's very new. And they're on a mission to establish what makes them different, because Sonoma is just vast, you know. Yeah. It encompasses a bunch of different microclimates, a bunch of different elevations, temperatures. Like there's a huge difference, and I think they wanted to separate that.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful because I feel like I got recalibrated. I think that I absorbed a lot from that. It was insane. It was well organized. I had a lot of Pinot Noir, a lot of Chardonnay.
I bet. And so what's the difference between, okay, so are we talking about Sebastopol, or are we talking about Occidental, or are we talking about something in between?
So it's actually, where is it? It covers...
Like, did I put you on the spot? Now
yes, you did. I'm like,
okay, so
Fort
we
Ross
know
Seaview.
of like West County as like Sebastopol area, right?
And then west of there. is the West Sonoma Coast AVA.
And then
there's some vineyards in Sebastopol. There's also some vineyards in Occidental and also Freestone, but mostly it's going to be in Fort Ross Seaview. So a little bit north of that, and it encompasses all the way from that top all the way kind of to the bottom.
Who did we just talk with?
We just had Ross Cobb.
Yes, Ross
on the show, and so he's worked with the.
Is that his AVA or is he in a mini one?
I tried some of their wines too.
Oh, excellent!
A lot of the producers there have vineyards kind of throughout other different areas, so we only tried this AVA from those producers. For instance, like Literai, Ted Lemon, he has vineyards throughout, in Mendocino as well, correct? And then we only tried his West Sonoma Coast AVA wines.
Okay. So when Sam and I came to Georgia and we met you, you had just left Lazy Betty. When we rolled into town, everyone was getting their Michelin stars. So it was kind of fun to be tasting people on their wines because everyone was kind of hyped up about just getting Michelin stars. But we heard your name from everyone, and then we got to meet you. But you were not even working at the time.
No, I was unemployed.
Yeah.
Living my best life.
Yeah.
When we got Michelin, when it was announced, I was actually at Atlas. I ended up getting a job there for a few months. And then I took a break, which is when I met you. Yeah. And then I accepted the job at the new Signia Hotel, which just opened up next to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in downtown Atlanta. So I've been there since December.
Okay.
And it was my first experience opening up a hotel, my first experience opening up 8 outlets with a team that was really awesome at it, and opening up a signature restaurant within that.
So the first time I opened up a hotel was the Four Seasons in San Francisco, and when we all flew in from other Four Seasons to open up the hotel, and they kept pushing it off, and then when we arrived, they didn't even have fucking windows on the building, so we were all wearing hard hats, and like architects were still in there, like designing our coffee station and all the shit. Was it like that, or was it pretty much set?
Yeah, in December it was like that. I got locked out of the building at one time because I went through a stairwell that wasn't complete, and I had to wear hard hats and the whole yellow vest.
Escher situation.
Yeah, the lobby wasn't even done yet. The lobby did not have the big fixtures like hung up yet.
Yeah.
So.
But you were getting paid.
Yes.
Okay, that was our situation too. We were getting paid, but there was nothing we could really do. So we ended up hanging out with the crew from Fleur de Lis restaurant because their restaurant had just burned down. And so they were all getting paid to not work. And so we were all getting paid. So we just ended up hanging out, going out at night, going to bars with this.
Now, did you go there from Hawaii?
Transferred from Maui to the San Francisco property.
Right,
but for me, it was coming home. It wasn't like going on this adventure. It was transferring home. Yeah. But so I know about opening up a hotel. It's kind of crazy. And then
it's insane.
And what's really funny is like the architects and the designers, like they ask you like, okay, so here's the coffee station, like how should we set it up? And you're like, well, I want the coffee machine here. I want where we put the cups right up above it. I want the refrigerator right below it. So you minimize steps, right? It's all about saving time. And then we would come back a week later and it would be completely different because the designers were like, that didn't look right there. And we're like, but you don't understand. Now I'm taking 6 steps to pull an espresso, whereas before my feet didn't even move. Mm-hmm. Anyone that watches The Bear, you can see that new season where they're trying to lay out the new kitchen, and he's trying to figure out how he can get from garde manger to saute in like under 6 seconds or whatever. It's every second counts. So was it kind of that situation when you got in there? Did they ask you any opinions about anything, or they're like, just start buying wine?
No, once I got up there, their restaurant the signature restaurant that I work in most of the time, it wasn't complete yet, but I could tell everything was established. Where things were going were already decided, and whoever designed the restaurant has never bartended before in their life.
Totally.
Of course.
But we made it work.
Yeah, where you picked up what do they call it? The service bar?
Yes.
When I went in there, it was in the like the hallway that goes to the bathroom for guests. And I'm like, so one person could stand there and someone could walk behind them. I'm like, how are we picking up drinks from here?
We don't have a real service well.
Yeah.
I'm telling you all this juicy truth, and I'm just not even concerned because you gave me this red wine. So,
and this.
What's the name of the restaurant?
I don't know.
And what have you tasted today?
Right now we are drinking Muchas Piedras. That's a 2019.
Great. Now I'm in trouble. Never mind.
Why?
What
It's all
happened?
good.
Well,
This is the last bottle besides what's in the library. I wanted these guys to try this. But anyway, it's fine.
Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
This is
Might as well drink
16600 wine. This is what I think of as quintessential 16600. Tiny little vineyard, head train, Grenache Mourvedre, Alicante. Everything gets picked the same day, crushed together.
You just like
together.
saying Alicante Boucher. Don't you?
Who doesn't? And John, I don't like saying it. What I like doing is during harvest, going up there and
Squeeze
picking
the
one of the
grapes.
berries and squeeze the grape, and it looks like blood running down your arm. It's so cool.
We've got some
Psycho.
of our vineyards.
Psycho
Yeah.
grapes.
All right, so part of opening up the hotel was that this program that you were on this week. Was it part of, like, you? Did they say, "Hey, we want to send you out to California," or did you sign up for this? Like, how did you get on this trip?
One of my mentors, Ryan Mullins, he works
Uh-huh.
for Winebow. He put my name in the hat.
Do you have mentors that work for the distributors?
Well, he's not my rep.
Okay.
But he's
Well, that's good.
he's very
It's a
helpful
little
with
inside
advice.
baseball shit. I'm like, okay, yeah, Gallo's sending you out to Monte Rosso to go meet Dave Finney. Yeah, I bet they are.
I mean, it could happen.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so
yeah, he was like, I really want you to experience this. I put your name in the hat, and they get a lot of inquiries, I'm guessing, so they choose here and there. So I got sent through Jasmine Hirsch, and I feel so incredibly lucky. You just
friend of the pod.
Friend
sorry.
of pod. Friend of
She's
pod.
supposed to be on soon. Yeah.
Good.
yeah,
Got her
she's
schedule.
so lovely.
She
so
stopped here a
friendly.
few weeks ago to taste some wine.
Excellent.
So we're gonna get her on. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So you mean put your name in a hat? So is it like a drawing?
No, I think you just have a lot of people that have been there before. They
Okay.
suggest names like these people would be great for this program.
Okay.
And really, they just want people who are influential in a way of, either buying or podcast or social media posting. I don't know. But from what I've learned, I do want to share more about it. And it helps me in a program, a wine program specifically, when someone just wants a Sonoma Pinot Noir. Now I'm just going to be like, well, okay. What kind of style do you want?
Yeah.
Let's make it
So-
really
Oh,
complicated.
Yeah.
Because like I remember Ross was talking about that it said like Sonoma Coast on the labels, but there's a lot of labels that say Sonoma Coast, and it's not. When we think of coast, we think, oh, you're really close to the ocean, and that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, it's cool to get the differences between Freestone and when you're growing 3 miles from the coast as opposed to 30 miles from the coast is a huge difference in climactic.
Did you have a chance to kind of A/B test all these wines?
Well, hold on. I want to.
Yes.
Okay. go
What I
ahead.
want to get to is how. Okay, so you get into this program,
Mhm.
and then they say, "Okay, you're going on this day," and then do you have an itinerary that you're going on?
Yes, the itinerary is already planned. They all know where they're going to send you as far as the vineyards that you're going to visit that day.
Okay.
We have seminars.
Okay.
So we had like a comparative seminar with Chardonnay one day, a comparative seminar for Pinot Noir.
Okay, but this wasn't like the program that you did up in Walla Walla where you all had different itineraries, right? When you went up to Washington, you all kind of like split up and all did your own thing. This was like you were all as a group together.
Correct. In Washington, it was an entire road trip. There were so many people, so everyone got separated by buses.
Okay.
We all did the same seminars, the same vineyard tours, and the same meet and greets. That was really nice, though.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that format as well. It's a little bit more intimate.
Yeah. Okay, so walk us through. You land on the plane here. Do you fly into SFO, Oakland, San Jose? Where are you?
Yeah, well, thanks to Microsoft, I had several delays.
Santa Rosa? You
yeah.
came in during the.
So I made it
Okay.
really late. I didn't get to
No,
make it
that
to
was
my carpool.
CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike. Thanks to CrowdStrike, I had a lot of delays, so I missed the carpool part. But thankfully, Toby from Hirsch just picked me and Thomas Price up, so we were both on the same flight, and we ended up headed up there, and we met everybody else up there, and it was like in the middle of a trade tasting, so I just kind of like dived in and
Where
started
did you
meeting.
meet? Where is it that you went to first?
I showed up in the middle of everything, and it was
Right.
kind of overwhelming. So I'm not sure exactly where we
Okay.
were, but we did go to the first place that we lodged at. So it
Right.
was more of just the parking lot of where the first night that we stayed.
Okay.
after that tasting, we went to vineyards and started exploring. So we didn't really stay in this one location.
Okay. And so
is this the first time you've been out in that area?
Yes. I've never experienced this place before.
It is so deep and dark with redwood trees. It's amazing between the coast and Occidental it's just
the fairy rings, they
raw.
call them.
Yeah.
The redwoods create little circular.
That they do. And, but I mean, it's just so deep there.
Mm-hmm.
You could walk for hours and be maybe 50 yards into the forest.
It was
very
amazing.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you don't want to get lost at night.
No, you don't. Not in Occidental, pal. You might not come back. It's like Big Sur.
Okay, so how many days are we going to go through here? Was it 3 days, 5 days?
It was 3 days. It was the 21st through the 24th. The 24th, where we had breakfast, said bye to each other, and we all went off on our way to wherever it is that we were going to, or back to work. Most people went back to work.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay, so walk us through some of the highlights for you of like who you got to hang out with and what you got to see.
Well, there were a bunch of really cool people in the industry that I got to meet that you just know about them through Instagram. So there was Thomas Price is a really, really fun individual on my flight, but also ended up being at a lot of our tables. He's a master sommelier who teaches just hospitality right now, and hearing how his industry works, that was really nice. Met a lot of new producers, which was the best thing for me. I think I was pleasantly surprised by Small Vines. His Chardonnay is fantastic. I got to meet Jasmine Hirsch and learn a little bit more about her. Yeah. Wayfarer was also a pleasant discovery for me. I've never heard or tried those wines before.
That Wester Reach Chardonnay is fucking amazing.
I didn't have that one, but Wester Reach is Russian River Valley, so we didn't have
that. Oh, okay.
We didn't have Russian River Valley.
I had never had those wines before. I thought Wayfarer was like sunglasses. Mm-hmm. And when someone put the wines in front of me one day, because I'm like, it kind of blew my mind.
Those wines were amazing. Yeah. Currently ran by, who's the producer for?
Paul Meyer, right?
Paul Meyer. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Jason Palmer?
Jason's daughter right now is kind of at the head of the business right now. So
good.
I mean, the wines were phenomenal.
What made them so awesome to you?
There was a fruit intensity that was well balanced with acidity. The alcohol in not just those wines, but in the entire lineup that we tried was just so well integrated. I never thought about alcohol. I'm sensitive to alcohol. And at one point I was
Most people are.
Yeah. If it's out of balance, it's just unenjoyable immediately for me. And the entire time everyone was pointing out, earth, salinity, freshness. And I was like, no one's pointed out the fact that we are not noticing alcohol right now. It's so well integrated. It's lovely. Right. It's fresh.
Was it at like a 12 point or?
They're around 12 to 13. Yeah. But that's not even it.
Like from a Zen at maybe, 17?
But I remember when Ross was here, when we were drinking his Chardonnay, and he's like, look at the alcohol. And I said to him, I've been trained not to look at alcohol first, because we have a lot of people when they come to your tasting room, one of the first things they'll do, especially when you make Zinfandel, is they take the bottle and they turn it around and they're like, oh my God, it's 15.2 or it's 14.8 or whatever.
For sure.
And you're like, we live in California. Like we have ripe fruit here. So we kind of have been trained to not really talk about alcohol in a lot. We like, if the wine's in balance, it's in balance. Like, doesn't really necessarily matter. But Ross was like, no, check out the alcohol. And I turned it around and it was like 11.2 on his Chardonnay.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh shit. No,
you did a good job.
Yeah.
He's like, you should have seen the acid levels on this thing when I first picked it, and the pH levels. And
I found his story about the entire crop with botrytis and letting it cold soak for 30 months and it producing the best wine that he's ever.
So you guys might have, I don't know if you had any of those conversations about growing grapes out there on the coast, but
we did.
Sometimes, with the fog levels, depending on where you are, like there's a lot of moisture and not necessarily mildew pressure, but like botrytis kind of shit happened to him a couple of
It's not hot. So you don't get the mildew, right?
Right.
Well, we tried a bunch of the 2022s in our lineups like every day. And when I said the thing about alcohol, they were like, funny, because 22 is one of the hottest years that we've ever had. It was a struggle. Yeah. And yet here we are. Just so elegantly integrated.
Yeah.
That's a really good review. Elegantly integrated. I like that.
And so what are you guys going and looking at vineyards and then going and tasting wines at or are you tasting wine in the vineyards? Like, I want to hear about all your different stops.
Yeah, I think it was a powerhouse of planning. At every vineyard, we tried the wines within the vineyards. And also there's different vineyards and different people who lease different vineyards. So we would try a couple. Right. So we tried Rain and Literai because they were like right there. They kind of worked together in the past. So we tried those two at one vineyard, for example. But it was every vineyard stop was at least 2 or 3 different producers and their wines. Wow. Yeah. And then, referring to your other question about what stood out about Wayfarer, it was the fruit intensity. So a lot of these vineyards, it's more pronounced, I would say, within the vineyard, just to kind of smell. We would have exercises where it was complete quiet, complete silence. Walk through the vineyard with your glass of wine and listen, smell, and taste.
I like that.
And we did that at Grovant, and it was a beautiful exercise. I mean, I was over there looking at the variation of the Pinot Noir while I was drinking their Pinot Noir from last year, and it was
Wouldn't it be fun to be able to do that to everybody who tasted the wine?
Yes.
And isn't that the entire concept of sense of place?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, there you go. When did you first become a sommelier?
I would say I took it completely seriously as a career direction in 2021. I've been exposed to it for a long time. I've been in restaurants for a hot minute, since I was like 15. I'm 33 now. But I've been in the restaurant industry for a while.
Well, hospitality either runs in your blood or it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's like being a musician, either have it or you don't. Not something I could do.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, and I don't know why sometimes, and then sometimes I do. But
yep,
we were just talking about opening of a hotel earlier. So
yeah.
But yeah, I started studying seriously after COVID because it was, we were at home, we were stuck, we weren't working, we were bored. And so I was like, I don't know why. I bought this dry Riesling and it's sweet for some reason. I don't know why. And it's just because I don't know how to read labels. And I started studying. Yeah. And since then, I joined a WSET program. I did 2 and then 3, and now I'm in the diploma program. And now I'm doing these really cool trips. I'm learning, teaching, absorbing.
Where do you live in the Atlanta area?
I live in Decatur. They say Decatur where it's greater. But I work in Atlanta, so we're right there next to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's about 30 minutes from my place, so it's an easy drive.
This is like downtown?
Downtown Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dead smack in the middle.
Yeah.
We're all Coca-Cola's right there. I mean,
Coke, the Galleria, all that, the museum,
the Olympics, tourist attractions. Yeah.
Fun stuff. I like Atlanta. I love Buckhead. That's where I stayed in Navy. So
Buckhead is where it's at, which is why it's been a challenge in Atlanta. So we're trying to bring a lot of the fun stuff that Buckhead does to downtown, where downtown you don't really see it as much. And I'm really looking forward to see what happens with all of that.
Well, that's a great path. I mean, it's a cool place. Fun.
Well, John, the scene there was amazing. And that's why when Sam and I had been following Kelly for a while and we kind of saw what was going on in that area. And then when we came to visit, it totally reinforced what we were thinking is like you have young people drinking wine, eating good food that were totally
it's a metro population too.
I think for some reason the pandemic around here, like people started leaving restaurants and deciding that, because when I came up in restaurants, you had people that were professional servers. People would take a job as a busser to become a server. You would study the wine list when you were not working.
It's a career.
Like that was a part of working in a restaurant, was you would take the wine list home and you would do your own studying. So we kind of were, we were kind of bummed that didn't seem to be what was going on here. And we kind of found that when we went to Atlanta, when we went to Buckhead and Marietta and Roswell, it was like, oh shit, these people are in it. Like this is what we remember, what was so exciting.
It's the young urban crowd, and they're very energetic. They've got the money, and they're fairly sophisticated.
And we were going to restaurants that we were sitting at the bar doing a tasting, like, at a steakhouse with Somm. I don't know if you know Somm. So, and all of a sudden the restaurant starts filling up, and all of a sudden we look at the patio's full, and we're like, it's 5:15. Like the restaurant just opened and this place is banging already, and people are like in suits, and we're like, this is amazing. That's why we wanted to be a part of it at 16600, because it was just a really cool scene.
Well, I just got back from Chicago and staying downtown. It's a very similar scene. All of these really nice restaurants have great wine lists.
Yeah. And,
we ordered everywhere, including some great Italian. Yeah. It's beautiful. And, the idea here is you need that audience. You need young, moneyed kids with a lot of energy and intelligence. And that's what you get in business. And that's what you get in urban areas right now.
Yeah, you're very lucky where you are. I guess maybe it's like we just don't feel that vibe going on right now.
Well, we're not young and professional.
No, but I'm saying, John, even in San Francisco, like I used to work for the Kimpton Group and the Four Seasons things in San Francisco, and we had that same sort of energy. Right now, we just don't feel that culture going on that's going on in Georgia.
Cities,
yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. It's up and coming. There's
right.
a lot happening, and a lot of us are we're a part of it. What are we contributing? What are we going to do to leave a legacy there?
And you guys all seem to get together too. Like we'll do a tasting group here every other Monday or something, but you guys seem to always, and Kelly's good about this, even though she has a full-time job, she like somehow finds time to always have something going on.
How does she do it? How does she manage it? Like, she brings us all together, and she has so much things going on that's not even wine related.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, that's that young urban energy that's happening. You feed off the energy of the city. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. Anywhere it's urban, I think that you're probably going to see this reaction. In San Francisco, maybe it's just because we've been there. I'm not really sure.
Because we kind of shut down everything during the pandemic. And so
But that's common everywhere. Everybody shut down.
I don't know necessarily that's true. I mean, I don't think the pandemic even happened in Florida or in Texas, right? But in San Francisco, everyone was sent home. And so then next thing you know, all the buildings are empty. Everyone's working from home. So then all the little businesses that were supported by those people that would work 9-to-5 jobs were then out of business. Then commercial real estate tanking. And so it was like this domino effect of things going on.
All of the empty buildings, the office buildings in Chicago, are being converted into condos. You're living it.
Yeah, we've talked about that, but there's laws here in California, again, which you have to have windows. You can't have, so the whole entire inside of the skyscraper or building that you're in cannot be rented out as residential space because there's no windows. It's illegal. So there's things, and this is why Gavin Newsom will never be elected president, and why he can't even run, is because, but in all honesty, California, we tend to go on the extreme of things, and for good and bad, right? I mean, we test things out here in California, our programs and our initiatives with things like electric cars or homelessness. We're the ones that go through the pain of figuring it all out. And the next thing you know, 10 years later, it's happening in other states, but they'll make fun of us while it's going on. Fucking liberals, blah, blah, blah. Look at all the people on the street. Look at Seattle. But then we'll figure it out. And then they will adopt all the shit that we have gone through the pain of figuring out. But it's not, we're sort of unique, John, in California and New York for our attitude.
Well, New York is a cool spot too. Look, I mean, just because San Francisco is different, look at all these other areas. We're talking about Chicago, we're talking about New York, we're talking about Atlanta. I'm sure even down in Florida, where, of course, DeSantis is probably, hopefully he doesn't make wine drinking illegal. You just have to drink White Claw, or Red Bull, or whatever the hell.
I don't know what happens in Florida.
I don't either.
Marvella could tell us. She was actually.
I don't want to tell you about it.
Okay.
So, I mean, all these urban areas, I think, are the hope for a lot of wine sales to kids. This is where they learn. Yeah. You know, look, I mean, I had to move from Iowa to Chicago to really learn about wine. And then I would just go over to Sam's or Binny's, that it's become, and just peruse the aisles. You know, it was available. In Iowa, when I grew up, they still had state liquor stores. So you actually had to go to a no-windowed, weird, you know, ironclad building, very, very Russian style, you know, early commie and buildings, and buy everything there. You couldn't go to a grocery store. You couldn't go to a package store or a liquor store. They didn't have them. So it's just interesting. You know, you hang out in these urban areas, and then those people move across the country. And I think that's what kind of crossbreeds and brings those talents with them.
Yeah, we had people a lot of people actually from Austin, Texas here last week that specifically told me, stop moving
to Austin.
Stop moving to Austin.
Well, they're moving out now. I mean, look, Austin's very cool, but it's still in Texas. Sorry, political opinion is mine. Not the show's.
It's okay. Can I have some more wine?
Sure.
Brian, sorry.
You know, if you want a good server, Tristan is inside.
Sorry. Normally, that's my job on the podcast, is keeping the glasses full.
Thanks, Brian.
Marvella,
it's delicious wine too.
So good.
This is beautiful stuff. So library or not? Thank you.
No, this is the one bottle. So I'm the one that does inventory every month, and so I knew that there was this one bottle sitting in the cellar over here, but the rest of it has been shrink wrapped on a pallet. You know, there's like 3 cases of it that are
just do not
for
touch,
the library
for
going forward. But I fucking love this wine.
All right. Well, back to Atlanta and what's going on in this scene. You know, you and Kelly, what would she say if we were asking her? I mean, she's been on, but what's going on right now in that scene? How is it expanding? How's the distributorship from 16600's attitude? And then the restaurants, where's the growth? What's going on? It's the whole scene.
I think if you would ask Kelly, I would agree with her, and she would say that we're experiencing a huge, exciting change. Michelin came to Atlanta last year. There was a few restaurants that got the Michelin star. We're excited to see who else gets nominated this year.
So there's never been a Michelin star
we just got it for the
in
first
all
time.
of Georgia?
Correct.
Okay, excellent.
Correct. Yeah, and so it changed a lot. And what I'm excited about, honestly, being in restaurants, is the attitude change within servers. I hope what I have noticed is people are getting more serious. People are, fixing their behaviors. They're putting a little bit more like pep in their step, greeting people with authenticity and intentional.
Effort.
Correct. Everything is more intentional now. It's not more. It's beautiful what I've been experiencing, what I've been witnessing, and to also be a part of it. I'm really excited about it. It's a wave of change. Who knows how effective it's going to be, how good it's going to be, if it's going to be bad, if it's going to be amazing, but we're a part of it.
So let's ask you the same thing.
Scott,
what do you see right now in restaurant? I'm just wondering, Scott,
tell us, I mean, you're here on the show. Out? We got a microphone in front of you. So tell us the story of Mountain Tides and what you're doing now.
So I used to do Mountain Tides Wine Company, which was a project where I made Petite Sirah from all over Northern California.
All Petite Sirah. Even rosé.
It's bold.
Even rosé, even a
10.8%
carbonic Petite Sirah at one point. Yeah. Talking about Russ Cobb's Pinot. But I'm very proud of what I did with Mountain Tides, and I think it was a really cool project. Unfortunately, the combination of the pandemic and my business partner was my ex-wife, and things just in my life just kind of fell apart, and I kind of lost all of that, and have been kind of rebuilding things over the last couple of years. And in 2020, early 2022, I started working for a project that I had known about and really respected for a while called Dancing Crow Vineyards, and I was working with a couple of winemakers that I really respected, and a gentleman by the name of Jason Driscoll, and then a couple, David and Catherine DeSanti. They were the kind of the three winemakers for Dancing Crow, which is a project based out of Lake County, Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet focused. And I always really liked the wine, loved the wines, loved the affordability of the wines, and
daily wine drinkers.
And then right before harvest, due to life situations changing on their parts, all three of them kind of left the project, and I was the last man standing. So all of a sudden, I had a around a 30,000 case winery to run that I wasn't as familiar with as I would have liked to be. It is a lot. But I knew
we talk to people who do 500 or 3,000 cases a lot.
Yeah. I worked for a large custom crush facility in Napa for a long time as a cellar master.
That actually must have been fun.
It was, but when I took on Dancing Crow, it was not something I was planning on doing. And I told the owner that when he called me, telling me that everything was going to shit, and he's like, "What are we going to do?" And I was just like, "Well, I can do it. I wasn't planning on doing it, but I can do it." No. We're gonna have to have some conversations about what that looks like, but
physically able.
And it worked out. And honestly, I had wanted to work on scale a little bit more because I really believe in sustainability within the wine industry, and I don't think sustainability. I don't think you can separate the sustainability of, ecology or environmental sustainability from financial sustainability. And having tried, like hell to make a small project happen in California and then watch it fall apart, doing something with a little bit more oomph behind it was something that really appealed to me. And I'm still, and I'll be picking up the pieces from Mountain Tides for a long time. But now I get to, I got really lucky to land with Dancing Crow. I'm the head winemaker there. And then in late 2022, we bought a winery property in Hopland in Mendocino County. And I spent 2023 last year. I got the winery built. Because there was a winery building there, but it was just a concrete floor and sheet metal walls, and we got it fully outfitted, and I lived there.
And that must have been fun, also. Fully outfitting.
Fun was part of it.
What John thinks of as fun?
Well, no, a lot
because he's not in the business.
It is. It's very cool to do a thing from the ground up, and it's actually a pretty rare.
You got to spec what you wanted.
I did for the most part. Some stuff was kind of. There was some stuff that the earlier previous winemakers had started to spec out because they knew that they wanted to go in this direction. And my job was basically to kind of honor where the brand had been and maintain the insanely good level of quality at a really high, level of affordability.
That's the trick.
And then, maintain that quality, but also find ways to build upon it. And also build in some new things, some kind of fresh ideas, because we now had our own tasting room for the first time. And so we started a wine club for the first time, and now I get to make some small lots from cool vineyards from around the way, the things that didn't make sense for the brand, but for the winery before. Right. And we also have a really interesting program where we sell our wines and have booths in farmers markets throughout the state. We have 45 farmers markets that we sell our wines through, which is actually a major part of our business and has been a cool thing that we started during the pandemic. And so it's Dancing Crow Vineyards, just a really cool project. We make a lot of Sauvignon Blanc, we make a lot of Cabernet, but we also have a 7-acre plot of a head-trained mixed variety vineyard in Kelseyville.
Changed the name already.
It used to be called the Catfish Vineyard. It was a Jed Steele vineyard, who was one of the OGs of Lake County. So we bought the property from him several years ago when he was kind of starting to divest from his project. And we came in, bought that vineyard. It's 7 acres of that mixed planting from 1901, so old head trained vines. We've identified 24 different varieties planted in there.
Wow.
And There's also 13 acres of Cabernet that was planted about 12 years ago. So that's one. And then the actual Dancing Crow Vineyard is a vineyard also in Kelseyville, but a little bit closer to the lake on the south side of Clear Lake, that we have about 30 acres planted to Sauvignon Blanc. That's kind of the bedrock of our whole program. And now we make several other things as well at our place in Hopland. And we're just, it's a kind of a crazy time in the industry right now, as anybody in this industry would know, but we're just trying to keep trucking and trying to stay true to ourselves and keep the lights on and keep making good wine and hopefully put stuff on a table that brings people together.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is, we're coming up end of July. I was talking to some of the Enterprise Vineyards crew the other day, and they're like, we're picking in like 2 weeks for Sophie James.
Isn't that
don't
wild?
That.
Well, when does
well, it's sparkling,
the champagne
sparkling wine
start.
So
yeah, that's
Sophie James does
that's
sparkling wine.
Yeah.
So they're starting to pick, but even so, they said there's not been a lot of rain this year. It's all been really
August.
It's really front loaded
temperatures. So normally they plan their vacations ahead of time because they know working for 16600, you're probably going to work until November, but you're going to start picking sometime in mid-September or something. And they're like, no, we all had to change our plans. It looks like we're going to start picking earlier.
I'll probably start picking Sauvignon Blanc in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
All these years that we had late harvests and kind of delayed and things, everybody's really worried. So how far will Phil let things hang this year? Because I know Bart always used to get
last person going to speak for Phil.
Yeah, but it's a common joke. It's like, let it hang. When am I going to get my grapes? Well, yeah,
when Phil says it's ready.
When Phil says it's ready. So how's the business in Atlanta?
And I don't know. Sam's there right now. Okay. He'll be able to tell you when he comes back, because he'll probably visit some of the accounts that we got to visit and can tell you now, how the wine is
restaurant
working.
Push or retail push in wine stores?
It was both. We went to restaurants, and then we also went to that really cool bookstore that was like half bookstore, half
Lucien.
Lucien,
That is my favorite spot for lunch.
Totally. That was a cool spot.
And what makes it so cool? It's a bookstore that serves a lot of wine and sells wine.
First of all, it's so beautiful. Second of all, the food is versatile with anything you bring. I've done tastings there with so many different producers, portfolios, like distributors. Every single time you choose something on that table, there's always something that's versatile. So it highlights the wine. It makes it for a great experience.
Do they have a lot of cover charges?
No.
Bring corkage?
No.
Not cover.
No, they're very supportive of the industry. Well, I don't know. I don't take care of the bill, honestly.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, around
Marvella
here,
never sees the check.
It takes a special restaurant or situation not to charge a corkage. And, it sounds like in Atlanta, people are bringing in their own wines to dinners.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. Okay. I think maybe people are very supportive of each other. And I think if you're in the sort of circle that Marvella's in with people that, just like we are here in Sonoma. Like if I go to dinner at the Girl and the Fig and Jasmine's working, I'm not paying for it.
Of course not. That's a personal thing. I'm just talking about walking into a restaurant.
Yeah, no, I don't want to put that out there for the public that they can just walk into places.
Well, no, this is why they have corkage, but that's okay.
Yeah.
If you don't make money, you can't stay in business. I can't go there for whether it's pizza or duck. I can't,
Yeah. So we were excited. There was a sushi restaurant that we went to, and I think they were picking up not only the Homage Blanc, which you guys tried earlier, but they were going to get the Del Simone Syrah, which was a Syrah Viognier co-ferment.
Which you haven't poured for us yet.
Which we are sold out of, unfortunately, and I don't have a ghost bottle sitting in the cellar like I do with the Muchas Piedras.
I'm joking, of course.
Damn.
But it was cool that they had some cool ideas about pairing sushi with red wine, which we didn't do until we
red wine or
cellar temp, I would call it.
Yeah.
We did that here when we had Sushi Noma, when they came and did a sushi event here. You could either do the white flight or the red flight, and that was the first time I got to pair red wine and sushi together. It was fun as hell. When you're talking about umami and soy sauce and hoisin and all that kind of stuff, it gave you a completely different thing to play around with than you were used to. It was and tuna as opposed to salmon and hamachi, and
I wish I could try it.
We'll let you know next time we'll fly you out here.
Always a vinyl Sunday going on.
Yeah,
we got one coming up next week. Stanley Mouse Appreciation Day.
So this show
August 4th.
Out,
yes.
Possibly it'll be like tomorrow or the next day by the time this show comes out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always active. Always.
If I can interject,
please.
Because I've just seen the Atlanta scene from afar.
Yeah.
And I got to do a market visit in Atlanta in January with our distributor for Dancing Crow. And I know Kelly. I've known Kelly for a handful of years from Mountain Tides, and her and Ryan come and tasting on my back deck in Napa, and that's kind of. And I met Marvella through Kelly, but I think what I see as what makes Atlanta kind of special, and what's cool about what's going on is that community aspect of what's happening within the industry.
100%.
And I think one thing that I find to be true in whether it's in the industry or just in life, is that like intentional, like cohesive community is never an accident.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people like really coming together and being willing to spend time and energy.
You got to show up.
Yeah. And I think that, I know for me, it's like I moved up to Hopland where there's not a lot of people, and it's something that I miss a lot from being in a little bit more of a populated place, but it's also partly my fault. If you don't have community, it's almost always at least partly on you.
Wow.
And so I think it's really cool. Like I saw that from afar of just like you have a lot of people who are consistently getting together, consistently like encouraging each other to be more educated and to keep growing in your career and in your life. And I think obviously Kelly's like such a bright light in that way.
That's a good way. Yeah.
And
that's a good description.
And generally when I find those kind of people in life, I want, and they co-sign people, I will willingly jump on board.
Yeah.
And just because, when you find good people, you trust the people that they trust. And I think it's really cool, the community that they're building. And
and even spread further. So at this point, like we first heard about Kelly, and then, kind of contacted her and started reaching out to her. And then, things at first were through Zoom, and then when she would come out here, she would come here, and then we would go there and hang out with her. And then it's created this new little community. Like it's a little offshoot community here in California that she's created, which is amazing.
Yeah.
She's like a glue. She's like a glue, and she's attracting everything that's good. She's just bringing
this
it
is
all
what's
together.
important. Bringing people together.
I'm going to grab a bottle of wine. I'll be back in 1 second.
You need bridge builders.
Brian with a bottle of wine. Grab me a bottle of wine. Okay. How interesting. How unique. Do we have any Dancing Crow here
I
today?
brought some for them for sure, but they're not cold. So I guess there's a red that doesn't need to be cold, but
okay. All good.
Yeah.
Just checking in.
I mean, that's up to him.
Yeah.
I was just giving it to him. I didn't know this was happening today. So
we didn't either.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah.
It's really nice that you could do the show. And
Thank you.
How are you just in general? How are you finding Sonoma County?
Peaceful, relaxing,
Sounds like an eagle.
educational. I told Scott, like, I really just wanted to just kind of oh my God, you just brought the Ben Rie.
I didn't know if you've ever had this, so
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Scott just said he has a red in there also. We should
Yeah,
taste the Dancing Crow.
Me, John.
I said
Here.
also, pal.
Have some more muchas piedras.
Pal. John,
so
shut
on the
up and
table,
drink.
I just want everybody to know, because I'm excited, Dona Fogata on the table, Pasito de Panteleria, Ben Rie, one of my favorite dessert wines of all time.
Okay, so when I heard you were into sweet wines, I was like, I got to stop by the Fairmont and pick up a bottle of, this is my hands down favorite dessert wine of all time. I don't like things that are overly sweet.
Sure.
And this is the way I want my bathroom at home to smell. is how this wine smells. It smells like you're literally biting into an apricot that is perfectly ripe.
I want to smell like this.
Brian,
wine.
you can have mine.
Should we
Okay.
I actually do smell like that wine, but
Can we agree on the pronunciation? Because I've heard people say Ben Rye. I say Ben Rie. Some people say Ben Rye. How do we pronounce this wine?
I correct people when they say Ben Rye to Ben Rie, and I hate
Ben
to be that
Rie?
person.
Okay.
That's telling. So I used to work at a restaurant that was like kind of shit kicker town, and the dairy farmers would order the Clos de Bois Chardonnay, and I never wanted to be the guy that was like, "Excuse me, sir, but it's Clos de Bois." The guy's wearing a fucking cowboy hat. Like I'm going to correct him.
Shit boots.
But with this one, I will tell people, and if you do it in the right way, when you tell people, "Oh, it's pronounced Ben Rie," so then the next time they can do that to their friends.
This is so exciting.
I'm
Look
excited.
at the color on it. It's salmon color, Brian.
I don't know where you've been getting your salmon, John. This looks like I had a really late night out and did not drink any water. Kind of.
Excuse me, I wasn't going
amber.
scatological, Brian. I was trying to be nice, you know.
This is when you know you're like, shit, I need to drink more water.
Oh my God.
This is from the Zabibo grape, which is
I can't do that. I can't even
good.
approach
More for us.
that. It's too much like Calvados.
Oh, I love
me.
those.
Oh, God. Well, you weren't at the event I was at. A little too much Calvados.
Okay. Anyone that hasn't had the opportunity to try this, it's from a winery, Donna Fugata. It's they do make just a regular still wine,
And
but then
where
they
is
also
that
do
winery?
this in Italy.
Okay.
They also make amazing reds.
What is it?
They also make amazing red wines
Oh, which I've never had.
and a few whites.
Okay, cool. But John, smell that and tell me that doesn't.
I did.
Tell me that doesn't smell like an apricot.
Well, it does actually.
Smells like
But I
orange
said
marmalade.
Calvados.
Orange
So
marmalade for sure.
it just reminds me of that heavy brandy smell and texture.
And they obviously picked up a new vintage because, 21. I think the last one I had was like 16 or something like that. This is a little bit darker than I'm used to seeing it too.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
We have spectators.
This always smells like to me like a sweet potato cobbler with toasted marshmallow on top and like a bunch of brown sugar and cinnamon in this casserole.
This is why she's a pro.
There's like some caramelization going on in there. It's so good.
And this is why I'm drinking muchos.
And John, if you had a hunk of blue cheese right now and you had this with it, it's like one of those things that like makes your mouth kind of like does not compute.
Brian,
Broken.
you know me, I'm a mortadella guy. All right, so
okay.
I had this with a scoop of gorgonzola ice cream.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I work at an Italian restaurant, right, at the Signia Hotel.
Yeah.
Our pastry chef, she's phenomenal, Daniela. She made this cheesy ice cream that I think a lot of people weren't feeling yet.
Yeah.
And then I would bring them this dessert wine,
Yes.
and I'd be like, I know you're getting this ice cream. Just take a sip of this before you have a little spoonful of that. And they would be mind blown. They're like, how does that happen? And I'm like, look.
you want to run the sweet scoops real quick? And
John, there's two things in the whole food and wine pairing. Like, there's so many roads you can go down, but for me, a funky cheese with Ben Rie and then Banyuls and chocolate. I'm not necessarily on a whole port and chocolate. It really depends.
So you're not talking Velveeta here.
No, I'm
Okay,
not.
all right.
But there's something about those two pairings that are like those solid. Let me show these people what food and wine pairing is about, and you do those things, and they're like, holy shit! It really short circuits your brain.
Well, just what you were saying. It blows people's minds when they actually get somebody who knows what they're talking about and can recommend something good.
Yeah. Now my brain is like spinning, thinking of what wine would pair well with Velveeta.
Please
Forget
don't.
it. It just popped in my
What
mind.
about this Simon's Marsan from 2018?
I bet it would.
I don't know. The only thing we do with Velveeta now is we get the block of Velveeta and we throw it in a bowl with a block of cream cheese and a block of any jarred salsa, and you throw it in the microwave for about a minute, and then you get a bag of corn chips, and you literally will not move for about a half an hour because you will just sit there and dip and dip and dip.
That sounds amazing.
And then you can't move after that. Because
no, you cannot. You're ready for a nap. That's football. All right, Marvella, what's the plan? You got to go right back to work when you go home?
Well, fortunately, I have 2 days off. Sunday and Monday we are closed. So I leave tonight at 10 p.m. I arrive around 5 a.m., 3 a.m. I don't know what the time. I keep forgetting what the time difference is.
Yeah. It's not that bad, though.
It is really kind of, though. See, okay, y'all were talking about like what I learned about Ted Lemon, and I was like, I rode in a car with him, and I fell asleep most of the time because I could not adjust to the time zone.
Well,
by the way,
go to Europe.
Oh, I will. By the way, if you were in Ted Lemon's car, we were called the Lemoncellos.
Oh, my God.
By the way, we were cool.
Lemoncellos out there.
He did this whole seminar at the very beginning, which you would love, where he asked every producer to compare their wine to a band. He said, don't describe the wine. Don't even go into the technical details. Describe it to a band. So I have a list of, like for instance, Jasmine Hirsch, I think she explained one of hers as a cello.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's kind of piercing. It's kind of like, it leads the band. It tunes the band. It's kind of like that leader, but it's very present. And
then you get into Yo-Yo Ma or Sheku Mason.
There was a lot of jazz. There was a lot of jazz that was used. But that was cool. So we were the Lemoncellos.
I'm sure there's no Allman Brothers wine, but...
No one said Allman Brothers.
No, I'm not laughing.
Marvella, when you're selling wine, do you... when you're selling wine on the floor of a restaurant, are people still wanting you to use like flavor profiles? Oh, it has saddle leather and red cherries and
pencil shavings
and that kind of stuff. No. Or what is your personal feeling about selling wine like that?
People don't want me to go through the grid with them. Right. I avoid the grid all the time when it comes to selling. I either use a story or I use something to compare, which is why, not to go back to West Sonoma Coast, it helps me to differentiate the styles. Right. So now when they say, I'm used to more of like cake bread, or I'm used to more of like Le Col Cabernet, I know what you're talking about, and I can give you a very specific region. So I can now differentiate Pinots. Like what I got fixed of, which I will admit, is I just assumed all Sonoma Pinot was just hot, over extracted, big, and just, these were just like Pinots that I just don't enjoy. They're big. I mean, I was like, here's your Sonoma Pinot. So I'm really grateful for this trip because it kind of changed a lot about that.
Very educational for you.
It was very important. And so now I'm going to go home and I'm going to like change my list. I'm going to have a little bit of a different, not add a whole section. Not going to add a whole section. I'm just going to make it a little bit clearer. Because I think I have a pay wine, it's CEP, so it's like declassified fruit. But I think it just says like Sonoma. So I'd like to be a little bit more specific because it is a really different style than if someone just wanted like a Patson Hall Pinot for some reason.
Yeah.
Can you sell Dancing Crow also and add that?
I think so.
And 16,600?
She just chooses
I
not
just
to.
now tried your wines today.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott's been really nice. He's been driving me around this area since I left farm camp and showing me around different places. Helping me learn the difference between like Mendocino, Lake. We also went down to
you've been
Ridge
way up.
Winery.
Yep.
Ridge was a treat.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been kind of learning a lot, and I needed this calibration.
So if you could move here, would you move to the coast? Would you move in the valley, mountains? You're a mountain girl, or?
I don't know that I like the cold temperatures. See, it gets very cold.
Yeah.
That's one thing that was very surprising.
So you just couldn't do 43 degrees at night?
No. I don't want to.
She's Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
I'm really
girl.
sorry, but I had my heat on at 80 at night. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
John, it was so nice last night when I left here, like at 6:00, driving home to Petaluma. The closer I got,
it was glorious.
The temperature dropped, and all of a sudden I could smell the fog before I even saw it. And then you saw the fog coming over, and it was like, where the fuck have you been, Carl?
Yep. You know, and driving down to the airport on Monday morning, we watched fog just rolling in and rolling off and out. I mean, it was an amazing show, depending on where you were from before Sausalito, on the bridge, and then way south. We came back and it was dark yesterday morning, 9:00 in the city. It almost looked like a temperature inversion, very kind of brownish. But once you got into it, it's all white and it's all fog, and I'm happy to see it back. I mean, it's like the reason that today is 75 degrees instead of 97, because the fog was here until almost noon.
We hit 118 up in Hopland a couple weeks ago.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what is that doing? We talk a lot about these temperature cycles. I know the plants shut down, but...
Yeah, we definitely see some sunburn. I mean, I think I'm seeing a lot of sunburn in vineyards right now, but not excessively. I mean, we know it's going to be hot in Lake County and in Mendocino, kind of, and so we generally leave our canopies a little more robust than you see in Napa Sonoma.
And you're not hot and dry. You've got some humidity around, so you're not really
not much humidity up there.
Really?
In general, it's pretty real hot and dry. In Lake County there's the lake, but it's also, the base level of the lake is at 1,400 feet, so the altitude kind of fixes some of that humidity. But it's
you're lucky on that.
Yeah, it's been an intense year as far as heat. I think this has been probably the hottest year pre-September that I've experienced in California in my 11 years here.
Consistent.
Where'd you come from?
I was in Louisville, Kentucky for 10 years before working as a wine director in a restaurant there. I started out working the floor. That's how I learned about wine for the first time, selling, Chenin Blanc in a restaurant in Kentucky.
Well,
kind of changed my life.
We love Chenin.
Yeah.
Bart,
So it's been
Bart make Chenin?
Yeah. Well,
still. He knows something about it.
Hashtag.
So it's been a hot year. I think it's last year the last couple of years have been weird years in general. 22 was pretty solid, but then we had the heat spike in September. I don't know if you all remember that. I know in Lake County we were right at about 120 degrees for 2 weeks straight.
I was going to say, where do you start your heat spike definition?
I think anytime you're over 110 for more than a day at a time.
I'd agree.
But we were in Lake County. We were 120 for 2 weeks straight every day. In St. Helena, where we were crushing our fruit at the time, St. Helena and Oakville, it was 115 each day. I saw like very, very famous in Napa Vineyards where the fruit was just completely bleached.
Yeah. It was like ends of rose.
The grapes were pink.
That was at Silver Oak, I think, on one, like the week after one of those 117 days. Yeah. Basically, they lost like 10-20% of.
Andy Beckstoffer must lose his mind in those.
He never loses his mind, John. He's naked, rolling around in piles of cash on his mattress. He doesn't lose his mind over anything.
Well, there are people who make it on the downside of the market, and people who make it on the upside. I think Andy makes it
doing just fine.
Last year was, in general, we had some rain here and there throughout the beginning of harvest. So last year was a late year. For Dancing Crow, we've never, before 2023, been never done a Sauvignon Blanc pick in September. It'd always been in August for everything. And last year I wasn't able to start picking until September 9th. And so it was just in general a very late year. This year, I think we're back to like third week of August, which is exciting for me. Just get in and get out. Because we have a lot of other things to do.
Are you guys regenerative farming?
Our vineyard is not regenerative. We're, certified sustainable, which is
a step on the way.
Yeah, sure. I do work in 2023, we started working with Mariah Vineyard in the Manchester Ridge AVA, which is the first fully certified regenerative vineyard in California. It's in the town of Manchester. It's about 2,400 feet of elevation, about 7 miles from the coast, if I'm not mistaken. And it's an incredible vineyard that we were very lucky that they were looking for a Mendocino producer to sell some fruit to, because they had all the fruit had always gone to wineries in Napa Sonoma, and I happened to reach out at just the right time. And in the wines that we made from there, Marv got to taste them the other day, but I'm really proud of what we're doing with that fruit, and I hope we can keep doing it. But it's really cool to see farming done at the extreme level of what you want to see. It's really hard.
It's a great experience seeing that.
Yeah. And that's something, we're getting ready to plant the vineyard at our winery in Hopland. And that's definitely something that we're like, how far can we take this and make it feasible from a financial perspective? Because, I think there's a clear calling to all of us to do better when it comes to how we're treating the earth and how we're farming. And I think in this industry, in the wine industry, we have a front row seat to seeing what climate change really looks like. And I think that's why it makes a lot of us here out on the coast feel a little crazy when we encounter people who don't believe in it, because we see the direct
reality.
Yeah, we live in the midst of it, yeah. And so it's everybody. It's on all of us to consistently move toward farming in a way that leaves the world in a better place than we find it. And we're definitely doing our best to move in that direction. I wish we could move faster. And
what does it take for enterprise to go in and redo a field to organic, or like 5 years, 3 to 5?
I think it depends.
3 is the minimum.
3?
And it's the status of the vineyard. I have someone was in here a couple of weeks ago that said, "Oh yeah, we have a vineyard," and we asked Phil to come take a look at it, and
I think I know this story too. So.
Phil came and take a look at it, and they're like, "So what do you think?" And he's like, "I think you got some nice trees on the property," or something like that. I mean, sometimes it's just like, you know what, but that's
let it go.
Phil. He can fire himself from jobs and do whatever he wants to do.
I mean, you can do organic a couple different ways.
Yeah.
You can do it through neglect and just not do anything to a vineyard,
which I've seen.
Which I think there's a lot of people who do, especially these days due to the cost of everything. But to truly farm organically or farm regeneratively is expensive. But
we're hearing a tremendous number of success stories about people who do.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
But I think it's a jumping off point too, John. It's okay. So you have your business at a certain level. Let's say you're making wines, and then are we going to invest to take it to the next level?
Understood.
And once so there's growing pains, I think, maybe in getting through that process.
But I think you're seeing it everywhere. Certainly having a friend. I was in marketing for food in a previous life in Chicago and New York. And friends are now talking about this massive movement towards organic produce in supermarkets across the country. You can now go in LA to Ralph's, here even at Safeway. I think they have organic produce and fruit. And it has become a real absolute part of the landscape.
Yeah, well, 75% of that in the United States comes from here.
And wine. I think you'll see the same thing. Now, we've heard tremendous amounts of negative news about the wine market. How far down is it at this moment from whenever? Down, they keep saying 10, 15%. Well, it's the kids who don't drink wine. But on the other hand, you have a fine wine market that is continually growing. And you have really cheap, I think it's at pushing $20 grocery store market that is really suffering. Constellation brands, let's just call it that.
Right? My Sauvignon Blanc is a core item at Whole Foods at around $20, and we're actually seeing.
So that's a good sweet spot.
It's kind of a sweet spot for us. We're seeing growth in our sales this year. The last year.
So what do you see dropping off?
Where
is that chasm that they're talking about?
There is a chasm. I think it has a lot to do with, like how much supply there's been. But I think what the wine industry is experiencing, and maybe this is going to be unpopular for me to say, but I think it's largely our own fault. I think for decades we've been building this like smoke and mirrors of wine, of trying to convince people that wine is
mysterious.
Is this mysterious, unknowable thing that only very famous, expensive winemakers know how to do properly, and it's we've been pricing the majority of the population out of the market. And, something I talk about a lot in my life is, and I've said it to Marvella this week, is I am passionate and feel like I have a moral obligation to make affordable wine. Because, when I was learning about wine in Louisville, Kentucky, I didn't know a lot of people who knew about wine. I didn't have any money. I was just working as a server in local restaurants. And
I'm sure it's not an $80 bottle market.
No,
either.
Not at all. I mean, there's, but obviously Kentucky is largely dominated by the bourbon industry, for good reason. And
there is that.
But
yes.
We've been building up, trying to convince people about how important wine is in this industry and how, and connecting it to status and all these things, when the reality is that wine can be this beautiful thing that should bring us all together, but that should include all people and people of different stations and
of course,
people, from diverse populations. And one of the biggest hurdles to getting into wine for anybody who's not currently in it is the price. If you buy, and I sell $40, $50 bottles of wine as well. But if you think about buying a $50 bottle of wine, and
it better be good.
It better be freaking good. And then, and if some kid is just, he's 21 years old, 22 years old, he or she or they, go into an establishment, like I could have this $40 bottle of wine that I know is good, or I could buy 4 cases of these canned cocktails or this beer or something else. And the reality of it is that you can't expect people to spend against their own interest. And so we need to be more compelling from a financial perspective, but also from who we are reaching out to.
Perspective.
Yeah.
What do you
if we expect the wine industry to get back to a healthy place, we need to be better at it. And we need to make it more available for more people.
That's one of the reasons we started cans,
we have a lot of those in the fridge.
Yeah.
Always.
I mean, it was environmental, but it was also
cans or a box from you.
Yeah, same thing.
Good.
We did the boxes for the same reason. I mean,
we went to Rhyme Cellars the other day. They do a cool box wine that's delicious. I've got my buddy Woody Hambrecht who does Ami Ami.
Yeah.
There's things we can do. I think we're so set in our ways as an industry of like, this is the way we've done it. And like, let's open up our minds. We've got a lot of smart people in this industry.
Do you have some thoughts on that? Tell us.
Oh God.
No, that's a different podcast episode.
Okay. All right. Well, then come back and we'll talk about that.
There's also the talk on alcohol too. Like, sure, money, how much money do you have? How much can you spend? But the younger generation is looking at alcohol. Take me, for example. If it has a lower alcohol and it's well integrated, I'm going to go for it. But also, the spirit-free
Well, you're not
wines,
drinking to get blasted. And people who drink
Hold on, let her
wine...
finish.
You clearly haven't met her before.
Hold on, I want to hear this.
Okay, go ahead.
Hold on, I want to hear this about the spirit.
I mean, spirit-free wines are a whole thing. People are looking for those lists now. People want a section. So I have a section that I'm working on right now at my
for
restaurant.
cocktails or wines?
Spirit-free everything. Cocktails, wines,
I haven't
beer.
heard of this. Wine.
Spirit-free is what people are looking for. And you have to have that section because it's a thing now. So I would say that would be number 2 in what's dominating the market and why it's affecting the huge change in how wine is moving, how American wine is
Obviously,
moving.
0 Point Beer has done very well because it's been around for a long time and has expanded.
Yeah.
So
this is a different thing, though,
Have you
John.
ever heard
This
of
is
that, Brian?
What?
No alcohol wine. I hadn't.
So I had one the other day, and then the whole spirit-free thing, I did a whole program at the Fairmont based on spirit. It was all spirits that were 0 alcohol.
So did the wine taste great?
No, it tasted like ass. And here's
ouch.
I've had one good one.
Well,
so the problem is they completely strip it, and then they have to add things back into it.
You have to go through a pretty rough process to remove the alcohol.
Decaf.
Right. And so I had one where they had stripped it and then not added anything back in it. And it's a local winery. And we have friends that work there. And so they brought me a bottle the other day. And Phil was actually in here. And I said, hey, do you want to try this? and three of us that tried it, it smelled okay, but then once you got it in your mouth, it was almost like drinking vinegar or anyway. I didn't understand why you would do it with wine. I understand the spirit thing. Like I can have a Negroni or and because there's no alcohol, the weight is different. So you have to add simple syrup or agave or and if you need a no alcohol bitters person, our friend started a company,
all the bitters.
I remember that.
What a great program he has.
I need to do non-alcoholic wine though, because at my restaurant,
good luck.
We greet everybody with Prosecco, and I can't offer Prosecco without being able to offer that one person at every other table that says I don't drink.
FRE brand.
I use the 1200. It's
I've heard that's
German.
good too.
Yeah. I mean, I have to have that because I can't just be like, hey, we greet everybody with a little toast. Right. Here's some Prosecco.
You don't drink, loser.
Yeah, and then people, there's always someone every day that's like, I don't drink. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have this non-alcoholic sparkling. And then they'll usually get a glass of that. And that's a sale for me.
Did you ever see that show on Vice about a water somm? There was a guy down in LA. They had like 20 different kinds of water from all around the world. And
I've always
do that with the NA people. Be like, yo, check out this list of water.
Is the best, and all of a sudden they've had issues. I don't buy Dasani. I'm trying to avoid microplastics.
Oh my God.
Until they fill my tummy up.
You hear those crows? That means it's time to wrap up.
All right. So what have we not asked you?
No, Marvella, I want to know two wines that you tried this week that kind of stood out for you, and then two wines that you tried in Walla Walla that you think people should, two different wineries in Walla Walla and two different wineries here in California that you think people should check out.
Cool. Well, this is just my personal opinion because
that's what I'm asking.
Over there in West Coast Sonoma, you either have Fruit Forward or Earth Forward, and then there were some that were a good balance of both. I tend to go towards the Fruit Forward wines.
Oh my God! Say two names.
So I always really enjoyed the Wayfarer were one of my favorites, and the Gros Ventre. Those I
don't know that. How do you say it? How do you spell it?
GROS space VENTRE. But can I also put small vines in there? Because every time I had their Chardonnay, that reduction just enveloped me. It was
I know, it seems like, so you've mentioned that twice, so I would say that's something for people to check out, right?
Yeah.
Small vines.
Although I don't know that I can find them in Georgia probably, but this is
all over, so if people want to check out, they can go on. Okay. They know how to use the Google.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, and then Walla Walla, I want to know what.
Wait, the Google?
The Google, yeah. And not specifically Walla Walla, but in Washington, two wineries that you thought were kind of cool.
Well, we went all throughout Washington, not just Walla Walla. So I would say the ones that stuck out to me was Le Col, which I ended up bringing them on my By the Glass program. Yep. Instead of a Napa cap, I put on a Le Col. Yep. And my whole thing is to talk to the table or to the guests about why Washington is on there and not Napa.
Right.
And that's really fun to do.
Yeah.
The other one I would say would be Castenada Creek, seeing those vineyards in person.
Classic.
It was beautiful, marvelous. It was immaculate. Everything that they did was gorgeous. Yeah. But that was memorable.
Okay, cool. Psalms picks for this week.
Psalm picks.
So if people want to come check you out in Atlanta, come see you at the hotel. Are you there most nights?
I live there.
Yeah.
You live in Atlanta or at the restaurant?
I live in Atlanta. I'm at the restaurant a lot. So
I'm there for dinner
service? Correct. Okay. 5 until close. And we do Tuesday through Saturday.
Okay.
I'm usually there. I'm walking the floor, talking to guests. I love kind of just presenting new Italian stuff to people. That's always fun. So whenever you ask me to just choose, there's this guy who goes there all the time. And he's like, I never want to choose ever again. So every time you see me, you bring me a new bottle.
Nice.
And it's always something different. So I never want to repeat bottles. So every time he comes in, I'm like,
great guest.
Every time he comes in, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. This one is actually only like $85 and it's this, this, and this. And it's, just underappreciated region. And it's on the list. Most people don't ask about it. And he loves it.
Yeah.
And we pair the food based on that. And that's always fun.
Pro tip for consumers, John. Sorry to interrupt, but I want to tell you a pro tip for consumers. Talk to your wine buyer or somm that's working at the restaurant. They don't always want to sell you the most expensive wine. That was sort of like the thing is like she's not making a percentage of that sale. And what I loved is when people come in and say, I'm looking for kind of like the hidden gem or like the best deal on the wine list, where you could recommend something that was something that you would buy for yourself, but wasn't necessarily expensive. But you thought over-delivered for the price point especially.
That's a good thing.
And that's an easy conversation to have with people instead of, oh, how much are you looking to spend tonight? Which has always got weird.
Has wine gotten too expensive in restaurants?
Yes.
Is a big deal.
Yep.
I mean, adding $85 to my tab at night is difficult.
85. You ain't at some cheap places.
Well, she just said 85.
Oh, for that bottle, yeah.
I was using that as a example. But, you can, Sam was at a dinner at Thomas Keller's place in Napa, and it was a Petrus, and I think it was $4,500.
I'm sure.
Yeah, well, it is if you want that. It's available.
That's only when someone else is using their Amex card.
Well, absolutely.
None of us are dropping that.
Well, the issue for me was I was the guy from the ad agency with the American Express card. So,
all right. So shout outs, John. You want to?
Well, you know what? I'm just looking forward to getting back into Slow-Noma. I mean, a weekend in Chicago on the streets downtown kind of energized me. So,
yeah. And if you're listening to this show, it's probably Friday. So 2 days from now, we're going to have party here at 16600. If you're a wine club member,
big party,
no charge. Just give us a call. We'll put you on the list. If you're not a wine club member, go on our website, 16600winery.com. John, looks like you work here. And it's $42.
I do.
Good food, good wine, good music.
Stanley Mouse
is going to be here. We're going to have a lot of his artwork for sale, so it'll be fun.
That's a big deal.
Can I say, if you happen to be on the north side of Northern California, of the Bay Area.
How far north?
The town of Hopland, 93 miles north of Golden Gate Bridge. Come visit the Dancing Crow Vineyards Winery and Tasting Room. We're open Thursday through Monday, so we're closed Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 11 to 5:30.
Social media?
At our Instagram is at Dancing Crow, and it's a beautiful place, super affordable wines that can meet just about every budget, and you just might run into me, or if you're lucky, my dog Dash, who's much more handsome than me. Yeah.
I think I like Dash.
Walking right now is like perfect timing. Marvella, you want to give people your socials? Because I know you're actually willing to connect with people over social.
Well, actually, I am currently drawing up a map of the West Sonoma Coast. I am also doing an illustrative educational little Instagram post of everything.
Artist by trade, actually.
I like that.
Okay.
Everything that I've learned on my trip, I'm drawing it up, and I'm going to do a little post soon, and it'll go onto Drawn to Wine. It's on Instagram at Drawn to Wine. And I love to share what I learned, so look out for that soon. It should be up very soon.
Cool.
I might make a post about you. Who knows?
You're gonna draw Brian as
a shock.
I'm gonna draw us right now at this table doing a podcast.
I like it. Brian, make sure you put the Radio Misfits podcast network in this.
Sean, I'll get everything
fixed. Ed will be very happy. So thank you guys for stopping by this afternoon on absolutely stunning.
No, thank you. Yeah, it was cool.
What is it? 75 maybe? 80, maybe 80.
I don't know. You're wearing a jacket.
You know what? I got up this morning. I went to work and it was cold.
Freaking
freezing last night, man.
I mean, it's a nice jacket, but
it's a great jacket.
It's about 30 years old, but hey, it is what it is. So thanks again.
Thank you guys.
And everybody, thanks for listening. We are indeed the winemakers, and we talk to you next week. Bye.